this is a question from Tim, and he's asking if I could explain a little more detail how much protein the body can utilize a day. I've read many different numbers, from 30 to 40 per meal. He didn't specify what he meant. 1 gram per pound of body weight. I'm very curious on your thoughts on how much protein an average person should eat per day. I personally don't eat protein meals per se. I don't look for proteins. I have not eaten protein meals, like animal proteins, eggs, fish, chicken, and so on for 40 years now. Before then, I used to be severely protein deficient, even though I was eating every single day, twice a day or 3 times a day, dairy products, fish, meat, chicken, and so on. So it depends on how well you digest your food. That determines how much protein you might need. So it's really the question should not be how much protein can I get into my body, but how much protein do I digest and absorb. Some proteins are more easily digested than others. For example, there is just as much protein in broccoli than there is in red meat. Yet if you eat a steak, you can only digest up to 20% of it if you eat it when the digestion is the strongest, which is midday. So you have a leftover of 80% undigested meat, which tends to decompose and produce very powerful poisons and toxins. For this reason, eating meat on a regular basis, according to the National Institute of Cancer, a study that was done on 550,000 Americans, would increase your risk of dying by 20% from any kind of illness, including cancer, diabetes, heart disease, osteoporosis, and many others. So the question again is, if your digestive system is equipped with an ability to digest protein, then yes, you can eat more proteins. But if you are not, then not being able to digest it can be devastating for the body. I found through my own experiences, once I cleaned out my liver, I was able to eat digest proteins again, but I found that I didn't need to eat any proteins that are derived from animal sources, highly concentrated sources. So I do eat because I like nuts and seeds. So I have a small amount, maybe 8 or 10 almonds a day. That would count for my protein intake. Then I would I like chia seeds, which are also has some proteins in them. Besides that, I eat lots of vegetables, salads, like lettuce, cucumber, avocado. I eat some grain foods and some legumes at times, fruit. So these are the natural foods that are perfectly sufficient to keep my body the way it has always been. I've never changed my weight. I don't have any health problems at 57. My body behaves as if it's like 35. So you don't need to eat protein in order to make protein. I've discovered that a long time ago that there is a myth that you totally depend on eating protein in order to make protein. I would suggest look at animals, the strongest animals on the planet, elephants, gorillas, wild horses that don't go out and eat a lot of heavy protein meals. They just eat vegetation. So there is something to be said about us. We are obviously not animals, but there's I'm the living proof. I only have to convince myself. I don't have to convince you or anyone else. I discovered over the years, having worked with hundreds and thousands of people around the world, that you don't depend on eating animal proteins in order to fill your needs for proteins, that you can live perfectly well without those as long as you have an adequate balanced diet and you have a good secretion of bile from your liver, which then allows you to digest the foods that you eat so that you don't develop deficiencies like it happened to me, where I suffered severe protein deficiency even though I was eating a lot of protein, and when I cleaned out my liver, I didn't have a protein deficiency anymore, even though I had stopped eating protein meals or protein foods altogether. So I hope this answers your question on this topic.